Okay, so this is our warm-up for today. It's just a longer warm-up over different types of factoring. So this will go over factoring out just a GCF, factoring out when A is 1, and then factoring out when A is not 1. And then we will also go over our word problem. So we finished notes number 5 yesterday. So we're gonna go over that in this warm-up. And then we're going to kind of review our word problem. And then that way afterwards you guys can get caught up on homework since I know you guys need some time on that. So on our first problem, our first step is to always look, is there a GCF? So I have 2, 5, and 12. Is there a number I can divide each of those by? No. Is there an X I can pull out of every single term? No. So this one has no GCF. I'm just going to write that right here. So then I look at my A value. What is it? My A value is 2. So that means since it's not 1, I have to do my slide, factor, divide, and swing. So my first step is going to be to slide. So I'm going to take this 2 and I'm going to slide it to the 12. Whenever I slide it, I multiply it. So I'm going to get x squared minus 5x minus 24. My next step after I slide is to factor. So that's already my lines. What plus what equals negative 5? Ooh, that looks bad. And what times what equals negative 24? So I got to think, what two numbers can I put in there? Let's see, our multiples of 24. You have 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 4 and 6, and 3 and 8. So you have to think, since both of these numbers are negative, one of your numbers has to be negative that you put on the blanks. So you're going to be subtracting. So your answer, 12 and 2 won't work, so that won't give you 5. 6 and 4 won't work because that won't give you 5. It'll give you 2. So it has to be 8 and 3. And since you want that 5 negative, that 8 needs to be negative. So I'm negative 8 and 3. And then I put it into my parentheses. Now my next step is to divide. So what do I divide by? I divide by the number I swung over at the beginning. So I swung over this 2, so that needs to be what I divide. And then we reduce. So 8 divided by 2 is going to give me 4. Ooh. And then 3 over 2 doesn't reduce. So our last step is to swing. So we only have to swing if we have a denominator. So this first parentheses doesn't have a denominator, so I just bring it down. The second set of parentheses has 2 as a denominator, so I swing it to the front. It has to stay in the same parentheses. It just gets swung to the front. And those are my 2 factors. So I'm finished, and I don't need to put a GCF on the beginning because I didn't pull out a GCF. Okay, let's go on to the next problem. I have x squared plus 14x minus 32. Is there a GCF? Well, there's no coefficient in front of x besides 1. It's most likely not. Is there an x in every single term? No. So I want you to think, so now my a value is 1, because this number right in front of x is 1, so I can just do my factoring. I also want you to take into account that it equals 0 at the end. If it equals 0, or you have an equal sign like equals y, that means we have to completely solve. So we have to factor and then set our factors equal to 0. So I'm going to do what plus what equals 14, and what times what equals negative 32. This one's a little bit trickier. So to 32, you have 1 and 32, 2 and 16, 4 and 8. I think that's it. And that's it. So the only one that would work would be 16 and 2. So you're going to do a positive 16 and a negative 2 since you want a negative 32. So I'm going to have x plus 16 and x minus 2. And don't forget I have that minus 0, or I have that equal 0. So I'm going to have to set both of these equal to 0 and solve them. So I'm going to have x plus 16 equals 0, x minus 2 equals 0. You only have to set them to 0 if there's an equal sign. So if there's not, so like on the first one, there was no equal sign over here. It's just our polynomial. So we just have to find our factors. This one is set equal to 0, so I have to find my factors and then solve. Minus 16, x equals negative 16, add 2, x equals 2. So I have my two factors, and then I'm going to put them in a solution set. Okay, let me know if you guys have any questions on that one. So number 1 and 2 are a little bit different. You just have to look at that A value. I actually didn't have a GCF on either of those, but keep in mind sometimes you may. Okay, the next one. This one is kind of one that looks a little bit different. We talked about it in our notes briefly yesterday, but I kind of want to go over it again. So this one I have x squared minus 49. Anytime you have x squared and you have a minus sign, and then this last number is a square root, you're going to have a certain factor, but we're also going to talk about how this one doesn't have a b value. We don't have a number next to x. So whenever we're factoring, first of all, there's not a GCF I can pull out either. What plus what equals 0, since we don't have a b value? And what times what equals negative 49? So you're going to get negative 7 and positive 7, because negative 7 and a positive 7 will give you 0. So your two factors are going to be x minus 7 and x plus 7. Now, another way to look at this is 49. The square root of 49 is 7, so you know you're going to have a minus 7 and a plus 7. Okay. Now, 4 looks a lot like 3. So I want you to think what plus what equals 0, and what times what equals a positive 64. There is no number. Okay, 8 and 8 gives you 64. But those are both positive, so those aren't going to give you 0. So this one is actually, since there's this plus sign right here, and that's not negative, this is not factorable. So keep that in mind, okay? Okay, so those are our 4 problems on the front. Let me know if you have any questions. I did not do a GCF problem on that, but you guys can go back to your video notes, or you can look at your homeworks. Let's go on to the back page. So our back page is our word problem. You guys, we got to make sure we know this. This is a huge chunk of points both on quizzes and tests, so we got to make sure we got a good understanding of it. So it says Samsung is designing a new TV that has an area of 12 squared feet. So that's the area. They want the width to be 1 foot shorter than the length. So they want the width to be 1 foot shorter. So we know the width is 1 foot shorter. We don't know anything about the length. So we're going to start by drawing our picture. Our length we know nothing about, and we know our width is x, our length minus 1, because it's 1 foot shorter. Then we have to find our area. To find our area, remember, area equals our length times our width. So I'm going to do x times x minus 1, and we know our area equals 12, because I gave that to us in the very beginning. So now we have to solve this. So we have to distribute. We don't want to factor it yet or anything. We get x squared minus x equals 12. Then I want to get this in a form where I can factor it. So I'm going to subtract the 12 over. The 12 cannot be combined with anything, so it just goes on the end. Equals 0. Then I factor this. What plus what equals negative 1, and what times what equals negative 12. You should get negative 4 and 3. So I'm going to have x minus 4, x plus 3, and remember that this equals 0. So I have to set each of my factors equal to 0. So I'm going to have x minus 4 equals 0, and x plus 3 equals 0. Add 4. You get x equals 4. Subtract 3. You get x equals negative 3. Okay, so we know that x, from our picture above, x is our width. Or x is our length, I'm sorry. So we have to think, can we have a negative length? No. So we can cross out our negative answer. So we need our length is 4 feet. And then if we know our width is 1 foot shorter, we're going to subtract 1 from our length. So 4 minus 1 is going to give you 3 feet. Okay, and that is how we do our word problem. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Those numbers were smaller. I know we've had a lot of bigger numbers lately on this problem. But let me know if you guys have any questions on that. So I want you guys to get started on your homeworks now, whether you have, so 1 through 5 is the number of homeworks we had for this unit. So try to work on those and get those done and get those inputted into your Google form. And if you have any questions, please ask anybody for help, okay?